Welcome to Season 3 of Adventures in Compliance. In this season, we are reviewing all of the Sherlock Holmes stories which are collected in the work The Return of Sherlock Holmes. It is a collection of 13 detective stories written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, marking the reappearance of the brilliant detective Sherlock Holmes after his apparent death in The Final Problem, which ended Season 2 and was the last story in the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. The collection spans various intriguing cases and mysteries that Holmes and his loyal friend Dr. Watson tackle. First, a word from this month's sponsor of the Compliance Podcast Network, Ethico.
In the intricate world of ethics and compliance, each second is precious, and slow case closures are more than just delays, they're missed opportunities. Enter Ethico. Our solution revolutionizes case management, cutting case closure times in half and turning every challenge into a chance for improvement. Imagine a workspace where efficiency and compliance coexist harmoniously. Don't just dream of faster resolutions, make it your reality. Visit ethico.com/CPN today to book a demo and dive into our exclusive white paper by Tom Fox, 2023, The Year in Compliance. Empower your team with the tools they deserve.
Today, we continue our consideration of some of the lesser-known of Sherlock Holmes' short stories in The Adventure of the Missing Three-Quarter, which was published August 1904 in the Strand magazine. I know you'll enjoy this episode. If you enjoy this episode, you've enjoyed this series, or you just like stories about Sherlock Holmes, I hope you will subscribe or rate and review to this podcast, wherever great podcasts are listened to. The Adventure of the Missing Three-Quarter. Mr. Cyril Overton of Trinity College, Cambridge, comes to Holmes seeking Holmes' help in one disappearance of Godfrey Staunton. Staunton is the key man on Overton's rugby union team and then will not win an important match the following day against Oxford if he cannot be found. Holmes has to admit that amateur sport is outside his field, but he shows the same care that he's shown in other cases. Staunton had seemed a bit pale and bothered earlier in the day. Later in the evening, according to a hotel porter, a rough-looking bearded man came to the hotel with a note for Staunton. Judging from his reaction, the note contained some rather devastating news. He immediately left the hotel with the bearded stranger. The two of them were last seen running in the direction of the Strand about 10:30. No one had seen them since then. Overton wired to Cambridge, but Staunton was not anywhere to be found. He also wired Staunton's wealthy uncle and nearest living relative, but he had heard no answer back. Staunton is the heir of the Lord, but he must live in relative poverty at this point because of his uncle's miserly behavior. Holmes further questions the porter. The bearded man who brought the note was neither a gentleman nor a workman, and he seemed to be bothered by something, for his hand was trembling as he handed Staunton the note. The only word the porter overheard during their short conversation was time. Earlier in the evening, at 6 o'clock, the porter had brought Staunton a telegram and saw Staunton write a reply out. Staunton told the porter that he would send it himself. Holmes looked at the telegraph forms in Staunton's room and then at a blotter, finally finding a clue. The impression on the blotter yielded a part of the message sent, which said, "Stand by us for God's sake." Obviously, at least one other person was involved. The uncle also briefly visited, but can give Holmes no meaningful or useful information. The old miser seems utterly aghast at the possibility that there might be a kidnapping whose object would be to extort his wealth. Watson and Holmes go to the telegraph office, where Holmes uses a ruse to get the woman to show the contents of the message sent. It was addressed to a Dr. Armstrong in Cambridge, and they go to see him. Armstrong tells Holmes that Staunton is a friend of his. He does not react when told that Staunton has disappeared and claims not to know where he is, yet also not to have seen him recently. He also says Staunton is very healthy, but Holmes produces one of his papers and Furious, Armstrong refuses to answer any more questions and denies he received a telegram from Staunton, and his butler shows Holmes and Watson out. They lodge at the inn across the street from Armstrong's office where they can watch him. Holmes makes some inquiries. A man in the yard tells Holmes that Armstrong, although not in medical practices, regularly rides in his brougham out into the country somewhere. The round trip seemed to take about 3 hours. Holmes tries following the brougham on one of its outings, hiring a bicycle for the purpose. He is yet thwarted by Armstrong, who makes it quite clear he is aware Holmes is following him. The next day, Holmes inquires in all local villages, but it all comes to naught, as no one has seen the doctor passing through. The mystery is at last unlocked by Pompey, a beagle foxhound cross, after Holmes covertly sprays aniseed oil onto the wheels of the brougham. Pompey tracks it to a college in the countryside where Holmes finds, and what Holmes finds there is not pleasant. Staunton is there, but he is grieving over his young wife who has just died of consumption. Her existence was kept secret because his uncle would not have approved of the marriage and would have disowned his nephew. Armstrong later told the woman's father about her condition, and the bearded stranger had unwisely told Staunton, who was compelled to rush off to see her before she passed away. So, what are some of the ethical lessons from this story? We begin with the respect for autonomy, as Sherlock Holmes respects the autonomy of his clients and the individuals involved in the case. He does not impose his own beliefs or judgment, but allows them to make their own decisions based on the information he provides. This underscores the importance of respecting autonomy and the choices of others, and I cannot think that there is much more important to a compliance officer than this respect for autonomy, and most importantly, allowing others to make informed decisions based upon what the compliance professional can bring. To number 2, truthfulness and honesty. Holmes is known for his commitment to truthfulness and honesty in his investigations. He does not fabricate evidence or manipulate the facts to suit his agenda, but relies on empirical evidence and logical deductions. This highlights the ethical principle of honesty and importance of presenting information truthfully in all interactions. Once again, an extraordinarily important component of every compliance professional's remit. Number 3, justice and fairness. Throughout the story, Holmes seeks justice for those who have been wronged. He is motivated by a sense of fairness and works tirelessly to uncover the truth and hold accountable those responsible for the wrongdoing. This underscores the ethical principles of justice and fairness, emphasizing the importance of treating all individuals impartially and ensuring equal outcomes. The Department of Justice has specifically tasked the compliance professional and the chief compliance officer as the holders of institutional justice and institutional fairness in every corporation. So it's a great guide from Holmes. Number 4, confidentiality and privacy. Holmes maintains strict confidentiality regarding the personal information and sensitive details of his clients and the cases he investigates. He understands the importance of respecting privacy and safeguarding confidential information, even in the pursuit of justice. This highlights the ethical obligation of those to protect the privacy and confidentiality of others' information and to use it only for legitimate purposes. Of course, under GDPR and other data privacy legislation, this is now a legal mandate as well. Number 5, integrity and professionalism. Sherlock Holmes exhibits a high level of integrity and professionalism in his conduct as a detective. He adheres to high ethical standards and maintains a strong sense of duty and responsibility to his clients and to society as a whole. This emphasizes the importance of acting with integrity and professionalism in all endeavors, regardless of the circumstances. Once again, for the compliance professional, this is absolutely critical and indeed mandatory as you conduct yourself in the day-to-day practice of compliance. And number 6, empathy and compassion. Holmes is often portrayed as analytical and logical, and he also demonstrates empathy and compassion towards those who seek his help. He understands the human element involved in his cases and shows concerns for the well-being of others. This underscores the ethical principle of empathy and compassion and highlights the importance of understanding and empathizing with the experiences and emotions of others. Once again, empathy is one of the critical elements for you as a compliance professional, and you must utilize empathy in all your interactions with your colleagues. The story itself provides valuable ethical lessons that emphasize the importance of integrity, honesty, fairness, and compassion in all aspects of your work as a compliance professional. And although the tale itself is very different and is based on mystery and deduction, we can draw some significant ethical lessons for the compliance professional going forward. Compliance Podcast Network is sponsored this month by Ethico. Ethico is a leader for compliance champions like yourself with its ethics and compliance optimization system built to turn goals and guidelines into real ROI for your program. For more information and a special white paper, go to ethico.com/CPN. I hope you will join me through this entire series of short stories from the Return of Sherlock Holmes. If you're a Holmes fan or you enjoy analogizing to compliance, leadership, and ethics, this is a podcast series for you. I hope you will take the opportunity to reread one or perhaps all of the short stories. They're short reads and a lot of fun. I'm going to be taking a deep dive into each one of them, looking at leadership lessons, ethical lessons, and or compliance lessons from each one. If you're a Sherlock Holmes aficionado like myself, I'd love to visit with you about some of your favorite stories and perhaps record a podcast or two with you on them. So please contact me. You can reach me through the website of the Compliance Podcast Network. Adventures in Compliance is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. And as I mentioned, we are sponsored this month by Ethico. So I hope you will check out the Ethico white paper that's available through their special link on that we put in the show notes that I mentioned earlier. This is Tom Fox. I'm greatly looking forward to the return of Sherlock Holmes.